not used to being this loud. All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome. Thank you, Sociable Cider Werks, for hosting this. And Minnesota Business Global Community for putting this together. Give them a hand. My name is Christelle Porter, and I'm a candidate running for Ward 5 City Council in North Minneapolis on the other side of the river. Yes, I've actually been a Northsider my entire life. I am the executive director of MN Renewable Now, which is a renewable energy nonprofit in North Minneapolis. Last year, I raised $750,000 to put solar on 24 rooftops on the north side. I actually co-founded the United Black Legislative Agenda, which secured $70 million for black communities across the state of Minnesota in 2017. I'm actually the gymnastics coach for North Henry and Edison High Schools, and I've been coaching soccer in the parks for 16 years. And I used to work for U.S. Senator Al Franken. I did constituent services for him. Give it up for Al. I'm really proud that I actually got endorsed by the Star Tribune, so I have to put that out there. But, you know, this night is not about me. We're talking to the mayoral candidates. I am so grateful that all of you have made it out here today, and all of you who are running. This is a very important time. In 2020, the entire world was looking at the city of Minneapolis and all of the things that were happening in our city. And this wasn't the first time. You know, just like I said before, I put together the United Black Legislative Agenda after Jamar Clark was killed by the police. And actually another time in my community, North Minneapolis, we saw Plymouth Avenue burn down because of another situation with the Minneapolis Police Department. So, unfortunately, even though I'm an environmentalist and I've spent my entire life focusing on our environmental crisis, I've had to spend my entire campaign on safety. So, there are 3 important things that are on the ballot that's probably going to bring the most people out that we've ever seen in the city of Minneapolis to vote, which is awesome. At least we've got people to show up, right? But these are really important issues, and I'm just going to tell everybody to just educate yourselves, dig in, read about it, talk to the people that you love, and really find out what you feel is right in your heart and what you want. At the end of the day, the people that we choose to represent us should have a plan, no matter which way it goes. So, again, I'm going to thank all of you for running for mayor. Just like 2020 and 2021, the entire country is looking at us, and they want to see what we're going to do. So hopefully, we're going to put together something that the rest of the country can replicate. Let's blow the rest of the country's minds. And with that, I'm going to pass this over to Russ. Again, thank you so much, Russell. And thank you all for being here. It's very important that you are engaging tonight.
Well, let's give it another hand for Christelle Porter. She's going to be an important part of the future of Minneapolis, I'm certain of this. That being said, she pretty well covered the reason that you are all here tonight. And I think she did a terrific job of doing so. We are going to move forward with the program and bring our candidates up one by one. The rules of conduct for this is that each candidate will have 10 minutes of speech, followed by Q&A. The Q&A, we are asking you to limit your questions to 30 seconds per question, one question per person, 2 questions per candidate. The candidate will have 90 seconds to reply, so they'll be brief but to the point. We have 14 candidates to get through this evening, so we do have to keep things rolling along, and that's why we have time, even the Q&A portion of the program. We have held these kinds of programs through a group called Drinking Liberally since 2003, which was founded at the 331 Club on 13th and University. They are there this evening taking part in the streaming process, and the other organization is asking us to read a piece. And so I'm going to give you that right now, which is Fair Vote, Minnesota, correct? We want to remind you that Minneapolis has ranked choice voting elections this year. You will be electing the city's next mayor, city council, park board, and board of estimate and taxation. You will have the power to rank your first, second, and third choice candidate on the ballot. If your first choice is eliminated in the instant runoff, your second choice will count. If your second choice is eliminated, your third choice will count. In the end, the winning candidate for mayor will be the one who has the majority of counting votes. As you hear from candidates, consider not just your first choice, but also your second and third choice. Make a plan to vote on Tuesday, November 2nd at the precinct location near you. Early voting is already underway, so that's available to you. For information on where and when to vote, visit the Fair Vote Minnesota table, which is, I believe, right back over here, right? And remember your rank. And remember, rank your vote. It is extremely important that you do this. And I want to add one more piece to this in regards to your ballot, and that is you need to be aware that on the 3 city charter amendments that are on your ballot, if you choose to pass one up and do not vote, that is a no vote. So please be conscious of that, spread the word for that, so that people are acting out their election process with good knowledge, good intention, and making this process an effective one. The other organization is called Minnesota Business Global Community. We were born during the pandemic. Many of us that are in that organization came out of another business organization process called Responsible Minnesota Business, which was born in which I was on, in which I came on the board of directors in 2001. So, with that being said, give us a moment, and then we'll bring your candidates up, and we'll begin this process. Thank you for attending. Understand that this is also being live streamed, and you'll be able to visit our website tomorrow and be able to see the recording of this as well. And you only have 6 more days before you gotta get out and vote. So please, send people to our site, hit the links, understand what your responsible actions can be, and get the vote out. This is an extremely important one for the city of Minneapolis. So with that, I'm going to step away.
How can you share the live stream?
Hang on just one moment, I have a question.
How can we share the live stream?
You'll visit our website. I'll hand you cards if you do not already have them, and you'll be able to load them up on your cell phones or laptops, computers, and be able to take part. Correct?
Correct.
Okie dokie. Well, thank you very much for coming out. I'll give you a moment for us to connect with the candidates, and then we'll bring them up one at a time. Okay? Thank you.
Because it could be like hitting like either it's a sleep mode thing, or it's because certain file systems have limits on how many gigabytes the file can be.
Right. I bet I can adjust that in settings.
Okay, we're ready to get this kicked off. And our first candidate is Nate Honeybadger Adkins. And he's going to have to explain that a little bit later. So, welcome Nate Adkins.
Thank you. Can everybody in the back hear me? Can everybody in the way back hear me? Thank you. All right. Who's got a beer in him? This guy. Who's going to get more beer in him? This guy. Thank you very much for having me out. As Russell said, I am Nate Honeybadger Adkins. I'm a candidate for mayor of Minneapolis. If you want to learn more about me, let's get the logistics out of the way. You can go to my website, honeybadgerformayor.com. That's honeybadgerformayor.com. You can find me on Facebook. Just do a search for Nate Honeybadger Adkins. You'll find my page there. You can find me on Twitter, HB4Mayor. That's HB, the number 4 Mayor. You can follow me there. So, I'm not used to this. I'm used to being given like 1 minute to explain how we're going to fix affordable housing or how we're going to solve the homelessness crisis or something like that. This just feels kind of odd and freeing to have a whopping 10 minutes to actually talk. So, thank you for that. This is kind of cool. Albert. Yeah, hold my beer. So, why am I running? That's probably the most often asked question. I'm running because I think the DFL party has failed the city. Now, in all due respect to any DFLers here, you're all fine people. I'm not questioning your character. I'm just questioning whether or not this party has actually been successful in the city. We have rising levels of crime where we are approaching the Minneapolis of the 90s. We have achievement gaps between blacks and whites. We have home ownership gaps between blacks and whites. We have structural racism. We have all these problems in our city that have happened under the DFL's watch. Now, I'm not saying that we need to go to the right. I'm not saying we need to go Republican or conservative to solve our problems. In all due respect to Bob and Carney, I don't know if I trust the Republicans with solving that. But I do think that there is a third way. I was inspired by the way after George Floyd was murdered and the protests, how so many people, not just in the city, but in the state and in the country, started to peel back the curtain on the real powers that the police had, on all the powers that they had to abuse us, on the kind of power that they had over people. People started talking for the first time about things like qualified immunity, about no-knock warrants, about civil asset forfeiture. They started to talk about the militarization of the police. They started to talk about all these things that have been a massive detriment to our society. And what happened in the following weeks and months is we lost sight of that. We became divided again. We began fighting over things like pancake mix and pancake syrup. Now, I don't mean to question whether or not Aunt Jemima should be on pancake syrup. I think absolutely we need to do away with those things. But right now, a higher level problem, at least from my view, in this city is the power that the police have. So how do we balance having safe streets from the criminals while feeling safe calling the cops to report a crime? How do we get there? Here's some ideas I have. 1, require all police carry professional liability insurance. If they want to be a cop, they got to carry professional liability insurance. Okay? When you think about it, plumbers, electricians, contractors, even some journalists have to carry doctors. Nurses. Who here owns a car? There should be more hands raised. Bob, you own a car. Come on. I'm fairly certain that anybody who owns a car has to carry some level of liability insurance because if you... Can I swear, by the way? Sure? Sweet. Because if you fuck up, an insurance company has your back. They're going to pay out for your fuck up. And guess what? If you fuck up too much, they end your insurance. You can't drive anymore. Some people do. But think about it this way. If a cop fucks up too much, that insurance company is going to cancel their policy. They can't be a cop anymore. They can't keep hurting people. The misconduct ends. Another idea, end qualified immunity. That's much harder than it looks. It's not like a piece of legislation that we just need to overturn. It's a legal doctrine, but if elected mayor, I'm going to instruct any county or city attorneys to not utilize it as a defense for cops. Thank you. Number 3, we need to start looking at just how detrimental the war on drugs has been, particularly to people of color, minority communities, black communities. The war on drugs is probably the most anti-black policy since slavery. It has absolutely decimated neighborhoods where blacks live. We need to end that. Now, I don't know if we can just end it across the board in the city, but we can start by decriminalizing drug use and possession. We can start by not stigmatizing people who use drugs and sentencing them with a drug conviction, a criminal record that prevents them from getting a job, obtaining housing, remaining employed. There are other ways to deal with that. We can direct them into treatment programs, rehabilitation programs. A victimless crime should not land you in a cage. I don't know how we can call ourselves a civil society when we have a prison population largely filled with nonviolent drug offenders. That needs to end. And we need to understand that we have a very toxic relationship with the cops right now, and it's because, in all fairness, we've kind of put the cops in a weird position. We've become an over-criminalized society. We need to understand we don't need as many damn laws, because the more laws you have, the more opportunities that cops have to interact with you, to get involved in your life, to get up in your shit. So less laws, less cops getting involved in our lives, more of a chance to live. It's a novel thought. Some other things we need to do. We need to end the militarization of the police. Militarizing the police, giving them tanks, giving them the kind of hardware that only the military should have, and quite frankly, I don't believe even the military should have it because they suck at it and they're good at killing people with it, and that needs to end too. End every damn war we can. But we need to end the militarization of the police. It's creating a wall between the people and the police. The people need to be able to trust the police. They need to be able to have relationships with the cops that serve and work in their neighborhoods. And that's another thing. Let's get back to actual cops in the neighborhoods that the people know, that the people can trust, that the people can have a relationship with. We don't have that right now. We have cops that live in Oakdale and Edina and all these other cities that don't know anything, that don't know anything about the people in the neighborhoods that they work in. We could incentivize that by offering things like property tax credits to people who want to serve on the police force, yet who live in the city. So those are some ideas I have. That's what I'm primarily focused on, because so many problems in this city. When you look at homelessness, what causes homelessness? Well, it's usually people losing jobs, losing housing. Why are they losing housing and jobs? Because they got tagged for a drug conviction. Let's end that. So that kind of pipeline, that pathway to homelessness is ended. But there's all these other problems, and they all kind of revolve and relate to the police and law enforcement. Let's start reforming those things. And I'll admit, I hate the term reform, because 9 out of 10 reforms suck and they fail at what they aim to do. But I don't think we've tried reforms like I want to try them. I don't think they've talked about things like the things that I'm talking about. So those are the things I believe in. Again, follow me on Honeybadgerformayor.com. That's my website. You can follow me on Twitter, HB4Mayor. Find me on Facebook, Nate Honeybadger for Mayor Adkins. Obviously, we've talked about ranked choice voting. I would like your first place vote. If you're going to vote second, vote Mike Winter. He's a good dude. He's back here. I support Mike. My third vote is for sale. The currency is beer. Thank you.
He's going to stay for a moment and have a little Q&A. Do we have a hand for a question? Rebecca, would you come to this microphone, please? And someone else want to put up a hand? No other questions beyond this one? Oh, I knew you would be there. Kate, would you please step forward?
I hear what you're saying about the war on crime, but I personally don't think that drug use is victimless, but I do think pot is. Would you differentiate between the two of them, or do you have all drugs across the board?
My initial thought is all drugs across the board. I think if we're going to be honest, I mean, the war on drugs has encompassed everything, and it's led to far too many issues. There's far too many unintended consequences that come with it. But I will say this. Let's at least start with ending the war on pot. Let's make Minneapolis a sanctuary city for drug use. For marijuana use. Got a little ahead of myself there. Not to reveal my true intentions, but no. We can make Minneapolis a city that's safe for marijuana use, marijuana possession, marijuana selling. It's ridiculous that our conservative neighbors in South Dakota have passed it, that they support the legalization of marijuana, but progressive liberal Minnesota can't. You know, and it's not, we don't need to pass a bill to do it, we just need to repeal the existing laws. That's it. Okay, just repeal the damn laws, let people make that decision for themselves. I trust the people of Minneapolis to make the right decision for their own bodies and their own health. So,
I love what you've had to say tonight.
Thank you.
I don't know much about you and your background. One thing I'm wondering is, if you don't happen to be our next mayor, how are you going to move these ideas forward anyway? And maybe that will give you an opportunity to share a little bit about yourself. I'm also listening to it with an ear to how can we also, if all of us don't become mayor, help move those ideas forward?
That's an awesome question. Thank you. So, obviously, I don't know if this was announced. So, I'm running as a Libertarian. I'm a member of the Libertarian Party. I'm the chair of the Congressional District 5 CD5 affiliate for the Libertarian Party. I've been talking to Paul Johnson back there. I've been talking to him about how we want to get involved working on criminal justice reform. There's a lot of things that we as candidates disagree on here. But there's also, I think there's actually more that we agree on. There's things that we can come together and work together on. And when we do that, the positive changes that this city needs happens. So I want to work with Paul. I want to work with anyone on the ideas I've talked about. So if you're like, hey, I want to do something about this, here's a group that I think you would work well with, heck yeah, connect me. I'll work with them after the election, whenever. That's something I want to keep doing, you know? This isn't just about just becoming mayor, and if it doesn't happen, well, okay, see ya. No, it's making these connections, networking with people, saying, hey, Gerald, what can I do to help you on the causes that we agree with? Clint, what can I do to help you on the causes we agree with? Bob, Troy, whoever. So it doesn't end next Tuesday. If anything, it begins then.
Honeybadger, well, you have an explanation coming up on that?
Hand me that.
Okay, we're ready for our next candidate. Would you step forward? All the way.
All the way, okay.
So let me introduce you to Mark Globus. And I have heard some wonderful things about you from individuals who have known you for a lot of years. So now you're going to have an opportunity to explain why they think that. So get up here and exercise your voice, if you will, please.
Hello, Minneapolis. Hi. It's my comedy debut tonight. This is a really interesting format. I've never done stand-up comedy. I tend to be a little serious, but I'm going to try and loosen up here. So, my name is Mark Globus. I'm the moderate Democrat in the race for Minneapolis mayor. So, a Democrat and a Republican walk into a bar. All right, just trying to have some fun here. You know, there's a lot of great people running for mayor. This has almost become something of a brotherhood, sisterhood. I've just been really impressed by everybody who's running this time around. Everybody's heart's in the right place. They want to make the city a better place. So why did I get into the mayor's race? About 18 months ago, after the murder of George Floyd and the city was burning, the uprisings were happening, I think it was the worst hour for Minneapolis. It was great because we had worldwide attention and everybody's focus was here, but all the negatives. So you have to think about, where are we in Minneapolis right now? How is the city? What's the health of the city? Is it healthy or unhealthy? Does the city feel good or does it feel bad? I personally feel that the city's coming back a little, but what I consider and what concerns me most is we're about to re-elect our current mayor. Again, potentially, there are other people who are running in the race who could be very good candidates, including myself. My background's as a business person and attorney. I've lived in Minneapolis for over 20 years. But one serious thing that we need to take a look at is, how is Minneapolis right now? Do we want to re-elect our current mayor? Has he done a good enough job in the last 4 years? What do you guys think? No. All right. I hear a lot of no's. I think we're ready for some change at City Hall. I think there's some really smart people in this room. I think a lot of people would do a great job. My background, I'm really pretty moderate. I'm a TFLer, I'm a Democrat, but I'm on the moderate side. I understand where all the Democrats are coming from. I have friends, actually, believe it or not, who are Republicans. Bob Carney, I consider you a friend, and you're a smart guy with great ideas. So let's hear it for both parties. So the number one consideration right now, the number one concern in Minneapolis is public safety. What can we do to get our city back on track and safe again? What's the best way to do this? There's two different thoughts. It's a ballot question, and this is the most serious ballot question. Ballot question number 2. Do we want to form a new Department of Public Safety? My take on it is we do not. Why? Because crime is Crime is very high right now. It's at an unprecedented level. Murders are up, shootings are up, everything is up. Crime is up. What do we need to do to help control that? Is to help bring our police force back up to full strength where it was before the cuts. The police force is, just today I read in the Star Tribune, it's under 600 officers now, which is just crazy. We want to be at about 875 to 900 officers. So I want to say this. I've always been concerned about the Minneapolis Police Department. They've never struck me as the friendliest group of people in the city. I think they're ambassadors to the city. I think they've done a lot of things that have hurt the city over time. And I think they're the reason why we're in the situation we are now. I think both sides need to really come to the table. The police need to step up and understand how upset the people in the community are, and people need to step up and talk to the police as people. They've done a lot of bad things, but I think we're on a bad track in that we're demonizing the police, and the police are, in my opinion, have been under enforcing the law, a little bit of a sick out, a little bit of, hey, we're showing up, we'll respond to 9/11 calls, but no enthusiasm for the job. And we need a strong police force, and we are a city of laws. We need that to have a strong city. So I think we need to bring the police force back. But I think we really need to get both sides talking again as people. We can have events. I don't see any police here. Maybe, they're out of uniform. But I'd like to see more police and more people from the city talking, really getting to know each other, trying to talk about the issues. That is what can help our city get back on track. Another thing that I'm very concerned about is the perception of Minneapolis out in the community and in the suburbs and across the country. One of the businesses that I'm in is in the hospitality industry, in the hotel industry. And there's very few right now when people are looking at where they'll hold a convention. The city of Minneapolis does not have the aura that we once had. This is a great city. It's one of the most progressive, successful cities in America. I love this city. Do you guys love the city of Minneapolis? That's why you're here tonight, because we all love the city and we want the city to be a better place. So I think one of the things we need to do is spend more time working on the public relations of Minneapolis, bringing the business community and restaurant owners, hotel owners, entertainment people together to try and put together more marketing programs, more programs to increase the image of Minneapolis again. And let people know that Minneapolis is a safe place to come and spend time. We need to get business back again into downtown Minneapolis. That's key. Absolutely. Thank you. That's one of the things where I can distinguish myself from the other candidates, is that I'm a marketing guy, I'm a business guy. I want to be the marketer in chief for the city of Minneapolis and help promote it back to health. We have so many great things in this city to be proud of. We have an amazing arts community. We have one of the best park systems in the country. We have some of the best sports teams. We have an amazing way of life here in Minneapolis, and we need to get it back. I'm concerned that we may re-elect our current mayor. There's great people in this room, including myself, I think, who could do a fabulous job leading the city of Minneapolis. We are a great city. We can get back. We just need to remember our roots and what's important to us as a community. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thanks for talking to the various candidates. And again, this is a really unique format. Again, I'm going to go to stand-up comedy school and learn a few more jokes and get a little bit better at this, but I think the city of Minneapolis is important enough for all of us to be out tonight, focused in on it, focused in on who is going to be Minneapolis's next leader. We need a great mayor for the city of Minneapolis. On November 2nd, Tuesday, that's just 5 days from now, I hope you consider me as your first vote. If I'm not your first vote, your second or third vote. globusformayor.com. Check out my website, my stance on everything. Again, I'm in the middle. I'm a moderate. I am a DFLer. We need to get the city back on track. We can do that. We just need some new leadership. We need some new ideas. We need people who know how to promote our city and people who are bridge builders who can bring the police and the community back together to work with each other and break bread, basically, and start the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, we have another question now from Mark.
I would personally like some concrete ideas on how to reform the police department, because we've been talking till we're blue in the face, and talk's not going to cut it.
That's a really good point. You know, I don't think the current mayor is spending enough one-on-one time with the police department. If we want reform, we need oversight of the police department. We need better training, ongoing training, and we need to work on this police union contract. That's one of the keys that we're working on, the police union contract right now. I think we can increase the pay of the police, but in return, I want it to be easier to remove an officer who has problems, who's been disciplined, who's received bad input from the community and from his peers. We need to be able to remove those officers. And if we have that oversight and that opportunity and control to be able to remove people from the police force, I think that will serve as a really good mechanism for keeping things balanced. We also need to attract a completely new type of officer to the Minneapolis Police Department. For too long, we've been catering, reaching out to a certain type of person, a real black and white, no-nonsense type of person. And I think there's a lot of other types of people, school teachers, for example, people who are compassionate, people who love our city. We need to get those people working on the police force. I think that would help balance out our police department and the use of force.
Do we have any other questions?
I see that you're speaking a lot about balance. Now, how would you be able to, let's say, help with the trauma that's been in these communities, dealing with these officers, and how would you be able to make them feel more comfortable being able to be one of those officers or walk past one of those officers?
You know, it's a lot of it's the dynamic that we've created in the city with people and the police. The police and people, they need to start talking. I know this is a silly idea, but, you know, hey the police, hey, go talk to John Doe or Jane Doe on the street. I want to see you talk to 10 people in a meaningful conversation. And if you do that, you'll get a good performance report. We need to start valuing the interactions between people. And if we get people talking, I think there'll be much more trust in the community with people, with the police. And I think the police need to see the community for its greatness and all the various people we have in the community. That is the strength of our community, is the mosaic that it is, all the different types of people, all the different ideas. So let's start talking and communicating. I think that will go a long way towards helping that dialogue and making people in the community feel comfortable being a police officer and making the police view the community not as the enemy or criminals, but as people that they want to be compassionate with and help and love our city.
Give it up for Mark Globus. And our next candidate is stepping forward right now, another gentleman who has a lot of explaining to do about his name. Bob, again, Carney Jr. Step forward, please. This is
Hi, I'm Bob again, Carney Jr., the only Republican here who's on the ballot running for mayor. I mentioned the name. I first ran for mayor. My first political campaign was in 2009, and then I ran for governor in 2010 after that. And the media was already starting to talk about, oh, perennial candidate. You know, it's like bad breath or something. It's like a disease. And so, you know, I kind of look at my candidacy as an effort to build a constituency for ideas over a period of years and now decades. And so kind of a guerrilla campaigner. And guerrillas don't do defense, we only do offense. So I adopted the word again in quotes, and I've been running as Bob again Carney ever since. And plan to continue to do that. And in fact, I'm campaigning for governor now, coming around for the 2022 election. And I was at the State Fair campaign day of 12 days over at the GOP booth. Now, I think we have some huge problems in our country right now with you know, all of the division and the hostility. You know, there are so many people that are kind of dug in to one side or the other, and I'm trying to break that down and build bridges and have communication and talk so that people can start to exchange ideas and kind of de-escalate and defuse the situation. But in the Republican Party, I'm being very blunt, and I get a lot of criticism for this, but you know, I'm challenging Trump on a very basic level. I do not think he's a Republican, and I don't think he's a Christian. I have huge problems with him in both of these regards. And I'm not going to be silent about this. I'm going to talk about what it means to be a Republican. You support a Republican form of government, checks and balances, federalism, federal government, state government, and local governments. And it's a pretty intricate system that we've developed over a period of time, centuries, and it involves a lot of both legal requirements, but also a lot of conventions and social mores. And either Trump absolutely doesn't understand this at a very basic level, or I think it's equally possible that he simply rejects it, just flat out rejects the whole premise of the system of government that we have developed. And I see this as a huge problem. Now, at the same time, I think that Trump has been speaking to people who I do believe have had legitimate grievances for decades and still do have legitimate grievances. And so one of the things that I try to make sure that I do is never to attack Trump's supporters. I'm trying to understand what it is that they are bothered about and to address those issues and to explain that they can be addressed without getting behind this person who I see as essentially a demagogue. So what I'm doing is a longer-term project than any one campaign. I am seeking, I'm on the ballot for mayor and would in fact serve for a year if I was elected, but I've also promised to resign in time to have a special mayoral election at the same time as the 2022 election for governor. And this is actually a big part of my campaign, and it's based on an article that Star Trib published. I've been very fortunate, and they have published me regularly now for years. And so this went out statewide, and I'm arguing for the idea that there is a kind of voter suppression that goes on in Minneapolis and other big cities, primarily Democratic cities around the country, and it's not a discriminatory voter suppression. It's 100% effective in suppressing all voters every year that we don't hold an election. And that's 3 out of every 4 years. So, now we're going to have one in 2 years because of the requirement of redistricting after the census. But the default is that we have one election every 4 years, and the other 3 years, 100% of all eligible voters are suppressed. And I see this as a real form of structural voter suppression that we need to address and start doing something about. I broke this story nationally. This is the first time that anybody's been making this argument in a major U.S. newspaper. And it partly is related to the fact that the Republican Party kind of gets marginalized. But, what I've seen happening is that in Minneapolis, we have a kind of a regime of the Democratic Party and special interests, monetary interests, including the juggernaut that pushes for light rail, and then activists are another part of this. But as I see it, the activists are really kind of getting the short end of the stick too, as are Republicans. What we have is that we typically have low voter turnout in the municipal elections. These are the year after the presidential election. So it's not the presidential, it's not the off year, I call it the off year. It's the year after the presidential election. And so, we've actually had a trend going up, but, we've broken 40% of the turnout in 2017. But, you compare that with 85, roughly, percent of the turnout during the presidential election. So one of the things that I'm saying is that we should have annual elections. And I'm calling this a kind of a one-year warranty on anybody that gets elected to anything in Minneapolis. Now let's talk a little bit about how this will work in terms of activists, in terms of people that are going at this who are socialists, who are trying to advance new ideas on how they think that the city can work. If you have this going, then you can literally have a continuing campaign that is being carried out with social media, that is being carried out by maintaining relationships and networks of communication. And you can, over a period of time, continually be developing your ideas into more and more concrete proposals and things that you would like to see happen. And over a period of time, again, this is exactly what I've been doing. You can start building, in effect, a brand, a recognition that you have this particular set of ideas, and I have done that statewide. I've got a number of ideas that I'm associated with. This is one of them, and I think that this is a much better way to carry out politics than our current system. So this, I think, this idea of having annual elections should be as interesting to activists on the left as to Republicans to try to get the message out. Now, we also can tie in municipal campaigns with both state level and presidential campaigns. If you have a presidential campaign coming around and we're talking about a housing issue or an education issue, then these candidates can start asking, well, what do your municipal elected officials think about this? What are they going to be doing about this? And the same thing with housing. And when we get to the state level, we can be talking in our state campaigns for governor and the legislature about the relationship between state level policies and what's going on at the municipal level. So I think that this idea of having annual elections, more democracy, not less democracy, is potentially a real solution for a lot of the problems that we're facing in big cities, not just Minneapolis, but cities all around the country. So this is one of the things that I'm promoting. Another thing I'm advancing is in 3 minutes, or how much time do we have? 1 minute? Okay, so I've got 1 minute at this point. Quick pitch on ranked choice voting. I'm very much in favor of it. I like to call it free speech voting, because when you think about it, voting really is speech. It is a form of speech. It is our speech as the people saying who we want to elect. And ranked choice voting lets you speak in a sentence. The alternative that we have right now is what I call shut up voting. You can get one name out, and as soon as you've done that, the government says, shut up, you're done. So I'm a big supporter of ranked choice voting, and I think it also provides the opportunity for people to, in effect, develop their brands and a reputation over a period of time, running over a period of years. So I'm Bob again, Carney Jr. I'm asking for your first choice vote for mayor, realizing perfectly well that I'm not going to get elected. I'm a Republican for starters. But if you vote for me, you are supporting the ideas that I'm advancing, which I think is very constructive. I'm voting personally for Mayor Fry second, not because I'm at all enthusiastic about him, but because of the public safety issue. I think, to be very blunt, that he's safe on that issue. And I'm voting for Gerald Perry third. We've got a good dialogue going on, and again, everything that I said about advancing new and constructive ideas, I think he really personifies that. So, questions? Thank you.
I'm a retired homeowner in Minneapolis, and I think our property taxes are out of sight. And you're a Republican, and I just kind of expected you to talk about taxes. So talk about property taxes and what should be done to hold the line on property taxes. Thank you.
Well, property taxes is one of the biggest forms of revenue for the city, and the fact is, when we got a $1.6 billion budget, we need to come up with this money from somewhere, and of course a lot of it goes for education. So inevitably, I think we're going to have higher property taxes. It's, I believe, about $1,000 average per household higher in Minneapolis than it is in St. Paul. One of the things I wonder about, if you actually do a per capita study of tax burden in Minneapolis and St. Paul, you find out if we were paying the same amount of taxes proportionally as population as St. Paul does, our budget would be $500 million less in Minneapolis. I'd like to know why that's going on. But again, there's part of the problem too is we've had $18 billion coming in from the federal government since COVID hit, and it's very difficult to sort out financial issues and where things are standing right now with that huge torrent of money coming in. It's just difficult to find baselines. Any other questions? Thank you.
Well, let's give it up again for Bob.
I think a lot of us are close to agreement with you on a few issues here, so thank you very much. And next up, we have Gerald Perry, who apparently must be doing something right because he just got a Republican to give him his third vote. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Russell, for emceeing tonight. Thank you for doing the sound over here. Thank you to Sociable Cider Werks for hosting the event, and thank you everybody for being here, because you guys could have been anywhere in the world, literally, with technology. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to be here tonight. That shows how much that you love and genuinely are concerned about what's happening in our city. So thank you, thank you, thank you. How's everybody doing tonight? Good? How's everybody doing tonight? Good? All right, well, my name is Gerald Perry. I'm 33 years old. I'm the proud father of two beautiful little girls. I got a 13-year-old Lamira and a 5-year-old Janelle. Just started kindergarten, so she thinks she's running the house now. I'm trying to pump her brakes a little bit. But we're getting going. They're seeing everything that's going on around us and just realizing how important this moment is. A lot of people talk about what happened with George Floyd. Of course, that was devastating. But as a 33-year-old black man, this is something that I have known my entire life as far as the relationship with police and community. And it was something that I was really counting on Mayor Fry to tackle. When he first ran, that was the main part of his platform, strengthening, building community police relations. And there was violent crime spiking then, with violence being committed by individuals with firearms in the city of Minneapolis. I have lost 2 brothers, 2 brother-in-laws, 2 close friends, and a cousin to this kind of violence. I have been robbed with a gun twice myself. My cousin has been carjacked and raped in the city of Minneapolis. All of these things have gone unchecked. Nobody's been arrested for anything, and that is in addition to all of the families that have been devastated by this violence that is going on in our city. Whether we're talking about 6-year-old Anaya that was shot in the head and lost her life, whether we're talking about Trinity out of St. Smith, LaDavion, who's just now about to get released from rehab on the 1st. Let's give it up for him. He's going to get to go home finally after months of being in the hospital, but we know that he'll never be the same. You know, so our prayers go out to him and his family, all of the families that have been affected by these terrible, terrible tragedies. We have to do something. We're using the excuse of not having the officers available to not respond to this violence. And I have met with Hennepin County Sheriff's Department. They are responsible for gang violence and gun violence in the city, in Hennepin County, period. But that includes the city of Minneapolis. And so I sat down with them and asked them, why are you guys not responding to these things? Why are you guys not helping Minneapolis Police Department respond and prevent these things from happening? And they said, well, Mr. Perry, we've been trying to. We cannot get the authorization from Mayor Fry nor Chief Arredondo. They have been trying to get the authorization to come into this city and help us keep our children safe. And Mayor Fry would rather be able to use the lack of police as a political talking point, use these ballot questions to distract us from the hell that he has forced us to live the last 4 years. Minneapolitans are much smarter than this. I'm hoping that people genuinely wake up and see what's going on before we cast our ballots. They are trying to make us think that we have no other choice but to accept the same thing over and over and over again. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. And again, we are not going there. Our lives and our livelihoods are depending on this election. The lives and livelihoods of our children are depending on this election. The very future of our city is dependent on the way we decide to cast our votes. We have to vote for leadership that is not going to fall or be swayed by a political party, that is not going to fall or be swayed by business interests, but that is going to genuinely serve and represent the people. That is the job of the mayor, to represent and serve the people of the city that elected. And even beyond local leadership, advocating on behalf of the people for even state and federal legislation. That's the job of the mayor. And when we have somebody that's not willing to do that job, it becomes our duty to replace them. So I challenge each and every one of you, like Ms. Christelle said when she opened, we can't look at a political party. We have to look at our heart. We have to vote our conscience in this election to make sure that we bring safety and reconciliation to the city of Minneapolis. There's so many things that are facing us. Racial reconciliation is one of them, of course. Education reconciliation, youth and young adult outreach reconciliation, housing reconciliation. We literally have people sleeping on the sidewalks in our city. An over $1 billion budget, and we have people sleeping on our sidewalks. My 5-year-old baby can see a problem with that. The baby. I know that we can see that, you guys, and we can do something about it. And in so many conversations with Mayor Fry, it sounds like he gets there, and he's going to do the right thing. And then it's time to act, and he doesn't.
You don't care.
And they're stuck there. We cannot continue to allow this to happen. We all say that housing is a human right. We have to put the actions behind that. Faith without works is dead, and we cannot leave our brothers and sisters just out there like that. Housing First Initiative with wraparound social services, unconditional. Get them into something temporary until we can get them into stable housing. We're bringing over 80,000 refugees into not only the country, but into the city of Minneapolis. People are coming to the city of Minneapolis. And I was talking to a family the other day, and they're saying how they're telling other people to come to the city of Minneapolis, because Minneapolis, you get a roof over your head, you get food to eat, you get education. Why can we not do that for the people that are already here? We have to. We have to. Even beyond that, the city data reported over 6,000 homeless youth in our city. So the community got together, made a coalition to petition Mayor Fry to create stable homes, stable schools. He finally did it, which was awesome. Did a pilot program, started back in 2018. And the contract was going to expire this year. And we got back out to petition him again, challenge, and he finally signed it. But it only serves 18 of 100 Minneapolis public schools. That leaves 82 schools wide open to have their children homelessness. And all the studies show that children do much better, they're much higher success rates when they have stable housing. Because it's one less thing for them to be thinking about when they're in school. One less thing for them to think about when they're outside after school. Trying to worry about where they're going to sleep that night. We have to fully fund stable homes, stable schools. The county is willing to partner with that. The Minneapolis Public Schools, they're willing to partner with that. We have to take on these partnerships and act as we would if it were our own children, okay? Public safety is a very, very big issue in the city of Minneapolis right now. Again, I opened with talking about the relationship between police and community. It's something that we can do. It's something that is within our reach. First of all, like Brother Nate said, we have to have the insurance going out. Because when we make that, it will automatically eliminate a bunch of bad officers. Automatically, because insurance companies will look at that, and there will be some officers that they will say, we cannot do this. This is too big of a liability. And no lawsuits, no litigation, no arbitration, no nothing. It's done. Right there, it's done. That is our best move. And then dump out the files. We met with civil rights leader Spike Moss, and he was saying, dump out the files. That's how you create trust between the community that has been brutalized, beaten, and even killed in some instances. I've been beaten by the police, okay? For having a cell phone in my hand and not putting it down fast enough to where I thought I was going to die. And I had to lie and tell them that they said, you got your blood all over me. You better not have anything. and I told them that I had HIV, and they got so scared, they took me straight to that jail when they said they were going to stop at the spot and finish this, okay? So I would not be standing in front of you today. Just to imagine how many other lives have been lost, okay? And we can look at the violence that's in the community. I understand that. Again, I have lost loved ones. I am out there with families daily that have lost loved ones. We're doing peace patrol daily over on 36 in Penn where Anaya was shot and killed. Crime in that area where we have been standing guard is down 68%. That's what community does. We have to bring community together. We met with community leaders, Mother's Love Initiative, Reverend McAfee, Bishop Howell, Minnesota Freedom Fighters, We Push for Peace. All of these leaders were invited to a meeting. We came up with a plan that said community could control this, and we could have the partnership with the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, and the mayor has yet to move on it. And even making the police officers live within the city of Minneapolis. We have a mandate for 888 officers. When that was in line, only 10% of them lived in the city. That's 800 officers coming from other cities, getting paychecks from Minneapolis taxpayers, and taking that money back to their cities, paying their property taxes, funding their schools, funding their recreation centers, funding their children's extracurricular activities, while we are consistent in divesting from Minneapolis and our families. We have to do something different. We deserve this, you guys. We have to vote Mayor Perry to serve the people of Minneapolis. And if you need a second choice, you have to vote for somebody that is on the ground in our communities fighting for each and every one of us, and that is Mr. Paul Johnson. I don't know where he went, but that brother is everywhere I go. He is the only other candidate that I ever see out there with these families in community fighting for what is right. Sorry, Mr. Wilson. There's a lot more, so I hope everybody's not in a rush when it's time to go. We got some stuff to talk about.
My name is Kathy, and my comment is that I think once people start talking and promoting social service programs, that there's a lot of the residents, a lot of middle-class residents that have some reluctance to approve them, and I would encourage anybody who's working on a social service program to make sure that there's a coordinate that says, okay, this isn't just a giveaway. This participant is going to be going to school for so many hours, going to be participating in volunteering, that there has to be some kind of recognition that these programs aren't simply handouts.
Absolutely, and that's one thing that we've been working on, even with the young men. We've been going over north, over on Broadway, where a lot of the young men are that have been committing some of this violence and negotiating a ceasefire agreement. United States, we give away almost $4 billion annually to Israel to do a ceasefire for some stuff that has nothing to do with us and our babies. We can do this right here, and just like Catherine was talking about, we can have them get enrolled in school, go do a 2-year program, go take up a trade, go take pathways, even pathways in our high schools, to go straight into public service, whether that's teaching, law enforcement, nursing, EMS, paramedics, all of that stuff. We can do this, and we can do it together, and that's the only way that we're going to do it. I was going to say Miss Catherine, but she said don't say Miss Catherine. So, Catherine, thank you very much for your comment, dear. You good, Mr. Russell? All right. Thank you again, everybody. Appreciate it.
Okay, real quick. I think I know the answer, but something that wasn't totally clear to me was how do you feel about changing the funding of the police and community, funds? Go ahead.
Check this out. I feel like, again, that has been focused on as a distraction from us actually looking at the candidates, because every community group, every media outlet, every organization, we're all talking about ballot questions instead of talking about the merits of the actual candidates. We absolutely need a Department of Public Safety because talking to residents, public safety is multifaceted. Everyone feels like safety is something different. Public safety means something different to everybody, whether that's mental health workers, social service workers, but law enforcement has to be a part of that. And it should have been as simple as saying that it would include police when necessary. It could have been that simple. And Mayor Fry and the council, they had the authority to fix that language before it went through, and they chose not to.
Yes or no?
Yes or no? We need a Department of Public Safety, yes ma'am, but this ballot question we cannot do because the evil that people are operating in, there's no telling what they will do with it in the future, and when my babies are on the line, it's something that I cannot do.
So no.
No, but as mayor, I will fight for a Department of Public Safety that does include law enforcement officers because that is a pivotal component of any civilized situation. So we have to do that. We have to do that. And I wish that the mayor and the council would do that properly so that it wouldn't be something we're discussing right now because it should have been done. We need it, but not in this way to where it's just open-ended. We can't do that.
That's okay.
Can you give an example where social policing is working?
In Oregon, in Kansas, in Des Moines, Iowa, my hometown. It's working and it can work here. The people are ready for it. And 36 and Penn, we've been doing it with community. It's going to take community to be invested, and they have to have a leader that is willing to come on the ground with them that they can visibly see and to garner that trust before they trust the whole organization that has historically taken advantage of them. We can make these differences, but it's going to take all of us together. It's going to, including you.
And we are moving on to Paul. Here we go. Secretary for a moment, and here he comes.
Just feel like I overdressed, so I'm gonna do something a little different to open up. Praying to God, what's he got planned for me next as the seasons changed. I went from Paul to nerve wrecks, prone to set trip, wreck your whole cruise and sets. It's more promises than your average everyday threats. The only gun I got I cock as I grab my crotch, not just another notch, climb the tower to watch my own beautiful demise followed by rapid ascension. I worked hard on my life, let me collect my pension. I sparked these blunts so I could ease the tension. So full of hate, can't stop my fist from clenching. So I clap back with my pen pad, gut bus pass, and backpack. Act whack and I'll make your head snap back. Cause all I got is my friend's fam and the chip on my shoulder. A battle of wits with me and all you brought is an empty holster. Don't judge me by my cover, son, you gotta look closer. So I am Paul Johnson. I am 100% revolutionary and 0% politician. I come from the streets. I come from the last 3 years of battling for justice for Travis Jordan, who was murdered on my front lawn by police in the 4th precinct on a wellness check after 3 minutes and 45 seconds of what the police like to call de-escalation. Disobeying all policy and procedure, they demanded him to come out of my house, which is rule number 1 to not do. Once he came out, rule number 2 says to get behind trees, cars, or any other objects to protect yourself. They did not do that. And then they shot him from 20 feet away. These are the police that I know. When 40% of them go home and beat on their significant others, where do we draw the line on most of them are good? Where do we draw the line when they're complicit in their other officers' actions? Where do we draw the line? So I am running out of the social justice movement. I am an instigator. I am a disruptor by nature. This is what I have been doing for the last 3 years in order to get people to understand that we are not in a place of reform for police. We are in a place for transformation. The one thing we can do, the one thing the mayor could do, could have done, and in fact had been offered is slap down Camden, New Jersey's use of force policy, which has 6 basic principles that all keep the sanctity of life at the top of them. They reduced their police violence by 95% in the first 3 years in a city that had a worse murder rate than Honduras. They broke the back of their union and they transformed their public safety system. This is something we can do. But it takes the strong leader who has looked the police in the eyes with their batons as the white supremacists behind them spit their vitriol towards us, demanding justice for not only George Floyd, but all stolen lives. See, people like to forget that Mayor Fry and the highly praised Chief Arredondo would have let George Floyd die as a medical happening if we had not taken to the streets. And don't talk about the burning, because we know that that was people from outside our beautiful city who came in to instigate. So anyone who says differently, tell them to shut the fuck up. We did what we had to do to get a little piece of justice. And if you weren't out there, I'm sorry, you should have been. I don't take excuses for when we live in Mississippi. We live in a state where we talk about being Minnesota nice, but we have the worst racial disparities in the country. People want to talk about the murder rate and that we need more police. There is zero scientific fact, zero evidence, 0, 0, 0, that more police equals less violent crime. In Murderapolis in '95, we had 880 police officers, with 37 more coming in, but we had the worst racial disparities in the country. 26 years later, we have the worst racial disparities in the country. And yeah, we're down police officers, but that has nothing to do with our murder rate. Period. Don't let the ballot question confuse you. If we had R.T. Ryback, Betsy Hodges, anyone would have done their fucking job, we wouldn't have a ballot question. We wouldn't be divided right now. We wouldn't have murdered George Floyd. We wouldn't have cops that shoot a handcuffed Jamar Clark while he's face down on the ground in the back of the head, and then harass the 10-year-old who saw it that they had to leave the state. Do y'all know the real stories behind these families? Because I don't think you do, because nobody would be talking about how good the police are. I'm here to bring the truth, period. And if any candidate thought that I was mean, it's because I have disdain for you for stepping in the way of justice for these stolen families. Because the only way for us to get it, for so many of them, is to take charge of these police, use our personal stories to affect the policy that needs changing so that these dirty-ass cops can't keep killing our black men and women and indigenous folks and unhoused. Anybody. I live on 30s, on Dowling and Morgan. I hear the rapid fire every night. Almost every night. And we got 100 nonprofits, a bunch of them trying to push for peace, ain't done shit.
How you know that?
Because I've been there. I ain't seen a 21 Days of Peace van out once. It's been hidden behind a church.
They're on the ground every day.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. I work there. I drive around the north side. I'm not here to debate you.
Drive around. You don't do shit else.
Oh, Lord. Watching people try to do their things on the north side and have millions of dollars disappear and not hit the grounds in my neighborhood is ridiculous. We need an audit on all of our people wonder where money comes from programs. We've been spitting it out left and right. Do you see the results of it? No. We need to be checking these companies. Also, all where corporate ties come. Target Corporation and everything they have tied into our government has created an apartheid downtown where they have targeted young black youth and criminalized them. We have not created a future for our youth to be involved in. 30 and 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds are still trying to create a future that they see. Our youth don't see that future. They're already ahead of us. That's why they're out there. That's why they're doing things that we don't want them to do. They are disinterested in the future that we are building for them. And we need to change that. We need to get our idea of a legacy out of our mind and start building a future for our kids. Otherwise, they ain't going to be involved. We have trades that are done. We have 18-year-olds that could be getting their CDLs, making $250,000 a year, and just driving truck. They could get their friend to go with them. They could drive 24 hours a day, make their entire college tuition in a year if they wanted, and help solve our shipping problem. We have ways of doing so many things right now, and opportunities, especially for our communities of color, to take advantage and to rise up. In 30 years, black wealth is supposed to be at 0% if we are continue on the downfall that we are. See, a lot of politicians like to tell you that they know those statistics. But what have they done about it? If we're not exhausting resources to fix these gaps, I'm talking there's money in little accounts that they don't use. They save it for a rainy day. Well, how fucking wet does it have to get outside for people to understand we got to do something? We got to stand up. We got to use our conscience. We have to understand that people are dying and we can stop it. We paid over $100 million in police lawsuit settlements. That would have solved our unhoused problem. We have 4 empty schools in Minneapolis that could provide all the wraparound services right within them. Cafeterias, healthcare, giant rooms that we could be converting. We can solve these issues. We do not invest directly into our community. We put them into corporations and we see a dime out of every dollar hit the street. Jacob Fry just said he invested $28 million in affordable housing. That means $28 million went into a corporation who's going to build a building with a percentage of those rooms available at 60, 50, 40, 30, and they talk about AMI. AMI is an aggregate which includes our suburbs. Minneapolitans make 40% less on average than the suburbs. So when they build and talk their 60% AMI, they are building at 100% of our income. This is how gentrification happens. This is why black folks are getting kicked out of their communities because they can't even afford the rent that they're in. Question 3, you need to vote yes. It is a 2-part system in Minneapolis. If we do not get the first part done and rent continues to spin out of control, we have to wait another 4 years to even vote on part 1 of a 2-part rent initiative. Understand that. People don't understand that this is not voting on will we have rent control. It is voting on can our government, should things get out of control, enact something. And let me tell you, we paid the U of M a lot of money to come up with a study that showed all landlords would still be making 8% on rent control. If that ain't enough for them, get the fuck out. We have a company in Georgia that owns 250 homes just on the north side. When we have 50% home ownership in Minneapolis, where do you find pride? Where do you find ownership of your city? We need to tax those motherfuckers so much that they ain't making money in our state because they're taking it to another state and not investing in us. We must invest in us. 75% of white families get to own their home, only 25% of black families. We still have a redlining issue when we even created our internet. Poor neighborhoods don't get the USI high-speed internet, only rich neighborhoods. Minneapolis has a problem with affecting poor communities and never looking at them and bringing them up. Our educational standards vary from South Minneapolis all the way to North Minneapolis. How can kids in the same grade be receiving different educations? That's not right. Our kids deserve to read at seniors in our North High, deserve to be reading at higher grade levels in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. We need to not be 50th in graduating our black students. Okay? Understand, our state can do better when we start taking a hold of those statistics and honoring them with the actions that it takes to fix them. And we need a leader who can absolutely go in, kick ass, put boots in them, and get rid of these corporate ties and start leading with our hearts and minds and understand what empathy is. It's a lot better than opinion.
Nate Adkins, aka the Honeybadger, if you want to call me that. Okay, I want to echo a previous question. So let's just say you're not elected mayor. I'd like to hear, like, what are some, who are candidates that you'd like to work with maybe afterwards, and what are things that you like about their campaigns that you want to kind of work with them on or partner with them on?
Absolutely. First of all, some of the greatest people that I've met in campaigning have been people who can't even vote, from felons to some unhoused who don't have IDs and feel like they can't. So we need to be partnering with the people that see that and see the actions. Today, some of the street vision people want me to come in and speak to the youth. We need to address the party system. I will be, starting Equity in Motion as a party so that we can start pushing kids into neighborhood associations and politics to change things. As far as who we are, obviously Nate, why I say he should be the third is because as a candidate, he found out that we have the people that I work with, Family Supporting Families Against Police Violence, Minnesota Justice Coalition, Minnesota Disability Network. These folks have already gone to the state government. We have 11 bills, 4 of them that made it to committee, all having to do with police accountability and transparency. Many of the things that Nate talked about. And he's the one candidate who has listened to me say that and taken that information to his party and contacted the people so that his party can start helping us push those initiatives. They would be the insurance. They would be qualified immunity. It's body camera footage within 48 hours. All of it. Not 20-second snippets like they did Dalal Eid that has no factual information. Okay? As well as the assassination of Winston Smith in Uptown. Many people don't know all the things that went wrong and the levels right down to the medical examiners and things of that nature that have gone on for corruption. So I'd be willing to work with anybody that realizes how deep the corruption goes within our system of public safety, and who will honor the idea that the families of Dante Wright, Courtney Ross, George Floyd's significant other, these are the families that I am endorsed by directly. They understand that our stories are what crafted this legislation and what will be the power behind getting these things done. And some justice for our family members, as our statute of limitations in Minnesota is only 3 years, where it is federal 6 years on wrongful death suits. So you have only 3 years from the time the police murder your loved ones to the time that you have to figure out all the evidence, do information requests, all that, and then sue the police.
Be unlimited.
Unlimited, and they should be reopening all the cases from Amy Klobuchar, Mike Freeman, everybody. Reopen the cases.
Robert M. Kearney Jr., we were all at the Mayoral Forum at North Community High School. Gerald Perry was able to participate in that. You were not allowed to participate in that. Why do you think you were not allowed to participate?
Well, actually, I know that a bunch of lies happened. Peter Bransgard or whoever started it, I emailed in, wanted to be a part of it. He told me that I was too late despite a date not being on there to admit that you were coming or, send in your whatever. So he tells me that he spoke to the students and that they said that they were already prepared for the candidates and they didn't want to allow any more. Even though once they found out Gerald Perry wasn't a part of it, they put him in writing the next day because they did the wrong email address. And then I spoke to Khadija, the valedictorian and moderator, and she said in no way did that teacher ever come to the students and ask if I could be a part of it. So I was actually lied to by the people in a 501c3 and not allowed. And I, depending on how I feel at the end of this, might be making complaints and seeing if you can't have nonprofits or publicly open places and not allow all candidates to speak. That's a Supreme Court ruling that my friend Bob actually has talked about.
Okay, well, very good. Thank you very much. And we are inviting next the Mayor Fry's representative who is going to just simply, quickly address an issue that is taking place right now.
I'm the mayor's campaign manager, and it is with my deepest and sincerest apologies that I let you know the mayor can no longer attend tonight. Unfortunately, we had done everything to get him here. We pulled him off a door knock on the north side early. We got him all the way here, and several of our staff members showed up to staff, and a personal matter came up, and the mayor had to take off. But I mean, we've been happy to share the stage with you, Gerald, and many other candidates.
Be transparent and accountable with the voters. That's what they're upset about, and that's what we need, and that's why people are going to elect new leadership.
Well,
we have to have somebody that's going to answer to the voters.
Well, we appreciate that, Gerald, but we've been on stage with you many times, and we would encourage actually the public here to seek out any number of those videos. We feel very good about the mayor's participation and performance in those debates, and we feel very good, in fact, about...
And I, for example, was a person who was not able to participate because they relied on financial exclusion before you went out for office. Anyway, he's refusing to come to events like this where we're all invited.
Clint, we appreciate your candidacy as we appreciate the candidacy of everyone else here. But we certainly do not set the rules for debates. We are very appreciative of organizations like this that are having one tonight. And we hope that you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care.
Okay, an unfortunate moment there, but we are moving back into the rest of the program. And Kate, I understand you are ready to speak?
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Kate Knuth, and I'm running for mayor of Minneapolis. And really excited to be here with you tonight to have a conversation about who I am, who we are, and the future we're going to create together in Minneapolis. So I'm running for mayor for a couple reasons. First, I've lost faith that our current mayor is helping us do the work we need to do to dig in and create a more just, a safer, and a more resilient Minneapolis. The deeper reason is really my commitment to community, and I believe a good life is lived in relationship with and in service of community. You know, I grew up in a family where my dad started a scout troop, served on the planning commission, my mom was on the church board and organized the neighborhood picnic, a public school teacher and administrator, and my dad actually served in the legislature when I was a little kid, about my daughter's age now, and I really hated it. I hated it because I was really shy as a kid. I would refuse to smile for pictures. I did not want to be in parades. But that commitment to community and that a good life is essentially lived in relationship and in service of community underlies my decision to step forward and run for mayor in this moment, when we need to dig deep in what we love about the city and how we create our path moving forward. So, you know, over the last months, we've all been talking and listening and trying to see our path forward in the city of Minneapolis. And frankly, there's been a lot of focus on fear and division. And I've been really disappointed by Jacob Fry's absence of leadership, his lack of presence in community, helping us dig in and find and navigate and chart our path forward. And that fear and division has made it seem like we have to choose between two things that we both really want, whether that's safety and justice. We shouldn't choose, we need both. Whether that's environmental justice in East Phillips with the East Phillips Urban Farm or a new public works site. We shouldn't have to choose. We need a mayor who can help us find a path towards both. And as we are entering into these last few days of a campaign, what I hold on to and what I think I want to ask all of us to hold on to is the fact that we are actually not fearful and divided when we get to the root of things. I think we're unified on two very, very important things. We're unified on the fact that the status quo on public safety and policing in Minneapolis is unacceptable. We're not keeping everyone safe in this city, and we are actively harming some people, particularly Black, Brown, and Indigenous neighbors, with the current police system that we have in Minneapolis. That's unacceptable. We need to change it. I think every person in Minneapolis agrees with that. The other thing we agree on is that we love this city. Who here loves Minneapolis and wants it to do better? I think every single person in the city loves Minneapolis, and even more, I am so convinced that we want to dig in deep and do the work we need to do together. We can tap into that love and step forward boldly and with courage to chart a path forward. What we've been missing, what has left us swirling, what has left us uncertain, what has left us fearful and divided, is the fact that we haven't had a mayor to help us dig into that work we need to do together. And I'm excited to step forward with the people of Minneapolis as a former state representative, as someone who built and led a leadership program at the University of Minnesota, as a former city chief resilience officer. I have both that commitment to change and work we need to do together and the ability to work through and with the, frankly, challenges of a big bureaucracy of city government to make a Minneapolis that truly works for every single person in it. I'm excited about asking for your support, but even more, I want to ask us as a city, each of you as individuals and us as a city, to step forward with courage and not fear to create a Minneapolis that works better for every single person in it. And I'm happy to open it up for questions.
Those are great points, but what are you going to do to make that happen?
That's what I was going to ask.
It's easy to say.
Hi, my name's Charlie.
Yeah, hi Charlie.
I appreciate.
Where do you live in the city?
I'm in the Minnehaha
Okay, cool.
neighborhood. I appreciate your speech.
Yeah.
It sounded like a lot of fluff, not a whole lot of substance.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate substance. I know a lot of candidates up here gave some talking points,
Yep.
gave a lot of
Yeah.
their ideas. I didn't hear any from you. I heard a lot of work together,
Yeah.
cohesiveness, a lot of.
Well, and I appreciate that. I would argue that if you go look on my campaign website, I have both a vision for where we need to go and significant substantive plans. Back in June, I released a public safety plan to build community safety and transform policing. We worked with several dozen community leaders and policy experts because I heard that people were like, we need more than talking points. We need more than words. We actually need significant change. So that plan involves investing in economic security and using significant federal money that we're getting as a significant down payment on that, investing in young people, particularly young men. We need to take a more holistic approach. I do support Charter Amendment 2. I think we need to invest more than double in the Office of Violence Prevention to ramp up that work and invest in all the great community groups that Gerald Perry was talking about. We need to ask police officers to do less because we're actually down a significant number of officers, not because of defunding, but because officers have left, because of mismanagement in the part of the mayor. And we need to make sure we're using the force as effectively as possible. And we need real transparency and accountability. One of the things, I have a campaign podcast, if you want some substance, there's 5 episodes, they're all about 20 minutes. The first one is about the issue of use of coaching instead of discipline when it comes to police misconduct, and that matters. Actually, the ACLU is suing the city over this right now. Use of coaching is not considered discipline under state law. That means it's not public information. So we as residents of the city don't get to find out. That's something we need to change. The mayor would have the authority to change now, but instead he actually chose to make it easier to use coaching and have less transparency around discipline. There's a great article in the Minnesota Reformer, I think just today, covering this exact issue. So that's some specific. I have a Minneapolis Green New Deal. There's 6 points there. Happy to go into it. There's a 4-minute video on my website. Just today, my campaign released a plan to welcome new Americans to the city of Minneapolis. There's 4 parts to that plan, making sure every kid and every person in our community can thrive and succeed regardless of immigration status, and making sure we are absolutely a welcoming place as we have been historically and absolutely need to be moving forward. I have an economic vitality plan focused on just rebuilding from Lake Street to West Broadway, Cedar Riverside, and absolutely downtown as we're coming out of the pandemic. I also have a Children's Futures plan. You can check that out on my website. Did I miss one? I'm looking at Faiza, my campaign manager. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm.
Tell us, please.
I would love to hear about the
Tell us.
So I heard something about the children's plan, but we've got another candidate asking a question. I think one place that I do stand out from other candidates is my leadership and my track record on climate change. So in terms of the Minneapolis Green New Deal, there's 6 pieces to it. 1, we need to jumpstart climate action in 2022. We haven't updated our city climate action plan since 2013. Number 2, we need to take on environmental justice, so particularly the north side and south side green zones. We need to
get shot. They don't care about green climate in the north side. Where people get shot.
I'm not. Yeah, we actually have something waiting. I've worked with north side leaders who have concerns about asthma, who have concerns about respiratory issues and cardiovascular issues. The north side and south side green zones were led and have been led really effectively by leaders in both the north and south side, particularly leaders of color, and I think we need to follow their leadership on making sure we dig in to make sure every neighborhood in our community is healthy and safe for kids. Do we want to go over the questions here?
Okay, we have another couple questions because you are vastly under time. We only 8 minutes, 16 seconds.
I don't know if that mic's going to everyone or just online.
Hey, you ready for the hard one?
Yeah.
You should have been able to say his piece. What's your favorite color?
All right, the Independence Party candidate asking me my favorite color. The color orange. Thank you. I've worn it every day for 20 years. I plan to continue to do so. I had a really lovely orange wedding dress, if I do say so. So I'm really enjoying the whole city turning itself to orange with the change of the fall colors, and you'll also see them with the Knuth and the winter signs out in the city of Minneapolis.
So you're defunct. Is the current numbers of police, is that...
Speaking of the mic.
We can't hear you.
Speaking of the mic.
Go up to the mic. It's up there. Bring the mic. It's on the panel up there.
So you're defunct. To you, are the current numbers that the police are, is that accurate? And Minnesota's been ranked the worst city for black folks. How do you change the disparities for black folks? Now, again, I don't want to hear about what's on your website. I want to hear from you. How do you change the disparities, huge disparity between black and whites? And are the current numbers where the police are at, is that adequate for you?
So I just want to clarify, I don't consider myself to be a police defender. I think that's just an important part to have of the conversation. So I have been very clear that I am committed to current funded police staffing levels, which is what the current mayor has funded in his budget, 770. The most recent numbers I have seen are in the low 600s, upper 500s, because so many officers have left. So we do need to do work to build up the force from there because of so many officers leaving for either early retirement or disability issues, mostly PTSD. So I've been clear in that commitment. The mayor said he would like to go to 888, but he's not funded anywhere close to that, even in the budget he's put forward. So I just want to be clear there. And I also want us to look more wholly at public safety, and I'm happy to talk numbers. I think it's an important part of the conversation, but if it's the only part of the conversation about public safety, we're missing a lot of the things that truly do keep us safe. And as you talked about, those really significant and unacceptable racial disparities. So I have focused on housing where we need to invest. We need to build more housing and more affordable and deeply affordable housing. I support a public housing levy as a way to get really at that deeply affordable housing because it is tied to income, not an ability to pay, not the AMI or some other number out in the ether. I also think it's really important that we create education and real city investment in pathways into homeownership, particularly in communities that have been historically redlined, so communities that are predominantly communities of color. And homeownership is important both for stability, and it's also really, really important for generational wealth building. So I think when we look at those ownership models, it's not just single-family homes, but duplex or triplex, ways to actually build wealth among and with families over generations. I do support rent stabilization as an important tool of an overall housing policy. I don't think it will fix the problem on its own, and we need to make sure we design it right in protecting renters, making sure small landlords can still thrive in our community, making sure we're not preventing more housing from getting built, because that would make the problem worse over time. And then I am okay with big national investment companies that come in and buy up homes or buy up apartment blocks that are basically absentee landlords and jack up rents. I want the rent stabilization to make that less appealing to big national capital companies who see housing not as a foundation of safety and stability for individuals and neighborhoods, but as only a way to make money. And I think rent stabilization can help us with that.
Good point.
All right, my question is, my name is John Perry. My question is, what are you prepared to do for already the struggles and the trying lives that they already have to live, just in the normal state, let alone this past pandemic that they've had to fall through, specifically for the children? You know, what is it that you have in place, and what kind of future are you prepared to offer them? Already, like I said, it's already been a dark future, a dark past, but now the future needs to be uplifted, and you've seen all the lights kind of dim, so we kind of need something very, very special. What are you
to make it clear that we are all in on investing in the lives of young people, and that we make sure young people see our city as worth investing in. So what are some of the specifics about ways we can do that? One thing that I'm really excited about that we've seen in St. Paul is making sure every kid born in the city of Minneapolis gets a college savings plan, and the city starts that with some money. Again, this is a generational wealth building and opportunity building. I would love to see this at the federal level, but I'm not willing to wait for them. So I think we can do it here at the city level, and that money can be used for school and potentially for business, starting a business or buying a home. And St. Paul has already done this, so I think we have a model just across the river where we can work on that. One of the things that I hear a lot from young people is actually about climate change and concern about the kind of future we're creating and how people are going to live through that with increased risk and chaos and storms. So I see my Green New Deal plan as a really exciting thing for young people. In particular, we have a lot of work to do to take on this challenge of climate change. We need to weatherize homes, we need to insulate, we need to electrify. And that's not work that can be outsourced. And it's literally work we do in our community to make our homes and our neighborhoods better. And we need to be investing more in youth jobs training and programming, but also actual job pathways. And I think that's a really great connection to creating both a better future and creating more economic opportunity for young people in our city. Those are a couple of specific concrete ideas. Would love to talk more with you about them, but really appreciate the question. Well, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate the opportunity to conversation tonight. If you want to check out my website, katefrompls.org, and I'll be hanging out for a little bit longer. Really appreciate you digging in to learn about all the candidates at this really crucial election in Minneapolis. And obviously, I think if you're here, you're going to get out and vote, but absolutely get out and vote by November 2nd. Would love to earn your first choice rank for Kate Canute.
Thank you very much. I'm pretty glad that he's a little bit late getting up on the stage, because we all want winter to wait a while. We'd like another couple of weeks of warmth. Come on up, Mike.
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? The first thing that I need to tell you that you all absolutely have to do is give a big round of applause for every single candidate that's running, regardless if you agree or not. I'll wait. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to throw your name on that ballot and put yourself out there. I mean, I know. I am not a professional politician. I am a Teamster. I am a commercial driver. I'm a lifelong resident of Minneapolis. I went to Minneapolis Roosevelt, then I went on to Brown Institute, and I went to radio after that. Why am I running for mayor? It's a good question. After I watched Lake Street burn, and the mayor do nothing immediately, and Fry do next to nothing, I decided, as a true citizen of Minneapolis, to give something back to the town that had given me so very much my entire life. So I threw my hat into the ring. Then I had to pick a party because I turned my back on the DFL after what I witnessed in Minneapolis, and I sure as hell am not Republican. I'm very anti-Trump. So I had to find myself a new party. So I decided on the Independence Party of Minnesota. A lot of people forgot about the Independence Party. It was the party of Jesse Ventura, the body, back in 1998. So the party is making a resurgence now. Don't rank Fry, by the way. Don't rank Fry.
No matter what. No matter what.
That was pretty cheesy that he sent somebody here to give an excuse for him. And do not rank Fry. There are 16 other great candidates here, 2 of which happen to really like orange, which is, you know, a coincidence. Okay. So, where am I at politically? I am a centrist, and I am bi-quad partisan. I'm willing to work with every single person at the city capitol. Everybody. I don't care what party you're with. On the big 3 questions, I am a yes, no, and no. Okay? On the first, oh, thank you, Nate Adkins, thank you. On the first question, why am I a yes? Well, I think right now our city capital is dysfunction junction. City Hall is dysfunction junction right now. The city council and what they've been up to the last 18 months really cemented my opinion that the mayor needs to have control over the heads in Minneapolis, the heads of the different departments. Because right now, the heads every 2 years need to get re-voted in by the city council. And if you piss one of those people off, you might be losing your job. I think there just needs to be less red tape. The mayor should be able to work fluidly, be the executive, and the city council can be the legislative. That's the way it is in every other major market in the United States, and I think it would work a lot better here. On question number 2, I am a no. Because I was never able to see a plan for the public safety department. That's the only reason. And I know the reason why I have not been able to see that is because of Minneapolis' attorney, who told the city council that they were not allowed to show their plan to anybody. Because the Minneapolis city attorney is appointed by Jacob Fry. So if Jacob Fry is not on board with the public safety department, you're sure as hell not going to see a plan. Did I mention don't rank Fry? Do not rank Fry. On the third question, I am also a no. I am a no on rent control. I'm a big believer in the free market. Thank you, Mark Lovis, Nate Adkins. Thank you. I believe the free market can come in and straighten out the housing shortage we have here in the city. We need to step out of the way and let them do it. I don't have a lot of faith in the city council or the mayor right now as it sits to make big boy decisions like how much should rent be. I would rather let the market decide it. I think Clint Connor had the idea of vouchers. Wasn't it vouchers, Clint?
That was also the Star Tribune who followed my lead on that.
Okay, well, we don't, the Star Tribune is not exactly flawless lately with the whole, everybody knows about Mickey Moore, right? Where does Mickey live? We're not sure. He doesn't live in the city. But I like Clint's idea with the rental vouchers. Instead of creating so much more Section 8 housing and affordable housing, we go on and on and on. Jacob Fry goes on about all the affordable housing that he has created. By the way, do not rank Fry. Don't rank Fry. Fry, the Fry guy, he had his time in the sun. He was.
Tiger Beat.
Yes, Mayor Tiger Beat. He's a good-looking lad. But it's enough Fry. It's time for something else. Personally, I am not going to be voting DFL. Well, I take it back. I'm going to vote for one DFL guy. I get 3 votes, just like everybody else. A lot of people are telling you to vote one person and don't vote anybody else. That's not me. I'm going to use all 3 of my votes. I'm voting for myself, number 1, not a shock. Number 2, I will be voting for the Honeybadger, the Adkins. And my 3rd vote, drum roll, you can cut the tension over there with a knife. I think Kate left. Mark Globus gets my 3rd vote. Clint, you're a good dude too, but I can't vote 4 times. So, Mr. Globus, and thank you. Closing statements. Oh, shit. Really?
We get votes anywhere we can. I didn't say it.
I like Clint. Clint's a good dude. Every single one of these candidates are great people. Okay? In closing, if you're tired of the DFL as much as I am, and if you don't identify with the Republicans, and I sure don't, it's time to start thinking about third parties. And the Independence Party of Minnesota is a great choice. If it's not for you, look at the Libertarians. They're a little crazy, but good people for the most part. You don't have to vote for the big 2 parties. And I guess the most important thing is don't rank Fry. Do not rank Fry, whatever you do. Don't rank Fry at all. And that's it. Like for Minneapolis is my website, my podcast. I do comedy, and I used to do stand-up, so it's hard up here to like be serious and be a good candidate and not tell jokes. But I do a podcast called Wisecracking with Winter, and that is it. Are there questions? Honeybadger.
Rebecca. Rebecca, right there.
Given how you are voting, how would you handle police reform, and how would you handle the need for public housing? I mean, I want specific examples.
Okay.
Specific examples, that's fine. Okay, I'm just going to read from what I have on my campaign website, MikeForMinneapolis.com, so I get it correct. My campaign manager hates it if I read on stage, but you know, so it's whatever. Number 1 is reinstate the community board, the Citizens Community Board that was blown up about 2 years ago and thrown out. I want to see a community board. I need a complete audit of the Minneapolis Police Department. That starts from the top all the way down to the last patrol officer, completely audited. 3, I'd like to see more cops present on the streets, walking a beat, riding a bicycle, riding a horse, whatever. Our police officers right now spend way too much time in their cars instead of getting out. This is as weather permits. You know, I'm not cruel. Number 4, don't rank Fry. Don't rank Fry. I know you want to do it. Don't do it. Number 4, an MPD cadet program. I'd like to start that up in the high schools. Get high school kids that are interested in policing as a career someday to join a program. I would like to have Minneapolis officers in that program as well, mentoring these kids. I want cops to be seen as neighbors instead of strangers to be feared. Thank you, Nate. Number 5, I would like to give a 3 to 5% property tax decrease to every city employee. No. So I had you until I said every. Because if you're going to give a property tax reduction to just the police to live here, those are city employees. I believe every single city employee in Minneapolis should live here in the city and get a break. And I'm out of time.
How about retired city employees?
Next time. We'll take that up in 4 years. Thank you for listening. Don't rank fraud.
Troy has one more question.
That was well done.
Thank you. I have questions.
Nate, go ahead.
Okay, first up, so is this working? Okay. I'm considering ranking my candidates. Should I rank Fry?
I could have swore we already went over this. Nobody rank fraud.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, follow-up question. Quick follow-up question. What are your thoughts on things like marijuana legalization, things like that?
Thank you, Honeybadger.
You're welcome.
Marijuana should be legal. Should be illegal across the state, should be legal especially in the city with what's going on now. I am for the legalization of marijuana, so is the Independence Party of Minnesota. Legalize marijuana. If there's nothing else, I think I should give up the stage. Thank you very much for listening. Everybody have a great night.